Lieutenant Zinoviy Kolobanov peered through his periscope and counted the German tanks rolling toward him. 10, 20, 30. They kept coming. A full panzer column stretched down the road like a steel serpent, confident, unstoppable. These were the same tanks that had crushed Poland in weeks, shattered France in days, and torn through the Red Army for months. Now, 43 German tanks advanced toward a single Soviet KV-1. Kolobanov had already been written off. The Red Army was in full retreat toward Leningrad. Every tank that could still move was racing for the city's defenses. Every tank that couldn't was abandoned. The KV-1 was supposed to be one of those abandoned tanks. Too slow, too unreliable. Its transmission failed constantly. Its engine overheated. Crews called it a steel coffin, a 45-ton death trap that would leave you stranded in front of a German advance. But Kolobanov didn't retreat. Instead, he drove his crippled tank into a marsh beside a narrow road and buried it, hull down, hidden, waiting. The German column was now just 150 meters away, close enough to see the tank commanders standing in their open hatches surveying the land with the arrogance of conquerors. They had no idea they were driving into a trap. Kolobanov's gunner, Andrei Usov, locked onto the lead tank. Fire. The 76mm cannon roared. The first Panzer exploded, and in that instant, everything changed. To understand what happened next, you need to understand the KV-1. On paper, it was terrifying. 90 millimeters of frontal armor, thicker than anything on the battlefield in 1941. A 76.2mm gun capable of destroying any German tank at range. A massive hull designed to break through enemy defenses. But in reality, it was a mechanical disaster. The transmission couldn't handle the weight. Gear changes were brutal. Breakdowns were constant. The engine struggled to move the 45-ton frame, overheating again and again. German tanks could move at 40 kilometers per hour. The KV-1 crawled, so Soviet commanders gave up on it. By mid-1941, most KV-1s weren't destroyed in combat. They were abandoned. But Kolobanov saw something others didn't. Speed doesn't matter if you're not running. Kolobanov had one mission: delay the German advance toward Leningrad. He had 5 KV-1 tanks against one of the most powerful armies in the world. Most commanders would have fired a few shots, then retreated. Kolobanov chose something else. He studied the terrain near Krasnogvardeysk, a narrow road, marshland on both sides. No room to maneuver. Perfect. German tanks would be forced into a single-file column, unable to spread out, unable to escape. A kill zone. He waited. He let the Germans come closer and closer until they were trapped. Then, fire! The second tank in the column exploded, blocking the road forward. Moments later, another shot destroyed a tank at the rear. The column was sealed. No advance, no retreat, no escape. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. Usov fired with terrifying precision, shot after shot, everyone a hit, every hit a kill. German shells slammed into the KV-1 again and again and again. They couldn't penetrate. Their 37mm and 50mm guns simply bounced off the KV-1's armor. Inside the tank, the crew endured deafening impacts as steel rang like a bell, but the armor held. 10 tanks destroyed, 15, 20. The road turned into an inferno. Burning wrecks blocked every path. Ammunition detonated. Crews abandoned their vehicles in panic. For 30 minutes, Kolobanov's single tank annihilated the trapped column. When the firing finally stopped, the result was almost unbelievable. 22 German tanks destroyed, by one KV-1. Kolobanov climbed out and inspected his tank. It had taken 156 direct hits. Not one had penetrated. Across the battlefield, his four supporting KV-1s had done the same. Total destruction, 43 German tanks, an entire armored formation wiped out. The German advance toward Leningrad wasn't stopped, but it was delayed, and in 1941, time was everything. Every day meant stronger defenses. Every day meant worsening conditions for the German advance. Every day brought the Soviet Union closer to survival. Kolobanov had bought those days with a broken tank. German reports described an unkillable monster, a tank that absorbed dozens of hits and kept fighting. They called for heavier guns, new tactics, better weapons. What they didn't realize was simple. The KV-1 wasn't weak, it was misused. Kolobanov understood the truth. The KV-1 wasn't built for speed, it was built to stand its ground. Used correctly, it was nearly unstoppable. The Soviet command initially didn't believe the report. 22 tanks destroyed by one vehicle. Impossible, until investigators counted the wrecks. It was all real. Kolobanov was recommended for the Soviet Union's highest honor, but politics got in the way. Instead, he received the Order of the Red Banner,